Evening and welcome to the July 2nd, 2014 Town Board meeting. I would ask that everyone please rise for the pledge, and I'd ask that you please remain standing after the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A week ago, we had a very sad event here in Penfield. We lost one of the great Penfielders, someone that was recognized by most, and those that didn't necessarily know him. Once you met him, you were friends for life. And I would ask for a moment of silence. I'm going to ask that you please be seated after that, and we're going to take about a 3-minute. I'm going to turn things over to our Penfield TV for a little bit of an overview. So with that, a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'd ask that you please be seated. This evening, we have a number of the members of the Rothfuss family with us here this evening, led by Mary Lou and a number of her children. And at this point, I'm going to turn the next couple of minutes over to Penfield TV, Dave Renner and his team, who have done some amazing things that I think that you will really get an appreciation for this great man. And I would also say that out in our rotunda, we have on display and will for the next period of time, hopefully the next several weeks, a tribute to Terry Rothfuss and what he meant to Penfield. And with that, Mr. Renner and team, please.
My dad was a farmer. My dad woke up every morning with the passion to work the land and create something that will live on well beyond his time here with us.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the field, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town, and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer.
It's our belief and hope that with Terry's spirit and God's help, we might clean out a few barns this morning, plow a new field or two, and inspire the planting of a few seeds of faith that will continue to nurture and build this community, as he so tried to do.
Being involved with the community meant much more to Terry. It meant building relationships with everyone. He believed those relationships were the very things that bridged the gaps between the barriers that could become sticky issues for many in the future. In Terry's eyes, that is what community involvement was really about, and that is how he lived his life each and every day.
I need somebody who can shape an axe handle from a persimmon sprout, shoe a horse with a hunk of car tire, who can make harness out of haywire, feed sacks and shoe scraps, who during planting time and harvest season will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then, painting from tractor back, put in another 72 hours. So God made a farmer.
If he was with us, he'd look out over this gathering on this plot of land that his father once shaped and that he had grown up on, and he'd say to himself, geez, don't any of you have any work to get done today?
Now, with the fields groomed and cows fed, the farmer has harvested his last heartbeat. But his rest is only temporary. The never-ending job of watching over us and your peace of heaven here on earth is eternal, loved, missed, and never forgotten. God bless Terry Rothfuss.
Somebody who'd bale a family together with the soft, strong bonds of sharing, who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what Dad does. So God made Terry Rothfuss.
Thank you for the gift of your dad, your husband, grandfather. We really appreciate it on behalf of the entire town of Penfield. Thank you. We'll continue on with our board meeting. Again, I would encourage those that would like to take a walk into our rotunda. A very nice job set up by Dave Renner with the help of his team, Brian Delameter, Amy Cruikshank, who worked so hard to help take everything that happened over those 64 years and kind of put it in a little display and a setup that I think is a real tribute to the Rothfuss family and certainly to Terry Rothfuss. So thank you again. Tonight, we do have a public hearing and a public information meeting. I'm going to start with our public hearing first, and I would ask that our clerk please read the public hearing notice, and we'll proceed with that.
Okay, and first I'll do roll call.
Thank you.
Cole.
Please.
LaFountain.
Here.
Metzler. Here. Moore.
Here.
Quinn.
Here.
Okay, now the public hearing. To consider permitting a garage addition with less setback than permitted at 1740 Penfield Road in the Four Corners zoning district. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on June 12th and June 19th and posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 10 postcards were mailed and 3 homeowner associations were notified.
Great. Thank you. And I would ask Mr. Horowitz, is this properly before the board?
Yes, it is.
Okay. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Reedman, and I would ask that you give your name and address for the record. We do have the benefit of all the material that you submitted to Mr. Costello, so we do have that. And however, we would ask that you describe what you plan on doing on the property. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, my name is Richard Reedman, Richard J. Reedman. I live at 1740 Penfield Road, Penfield, New York. And before I start, I'd like to apologize. My phone went off during that very special memorial. And I know a little bit about the Rothfuss family because I'm a very close friend of L. Rothfuss, who lives in Marion. And L told me about Terry and Terry's dad, and L's dad were cousins. So I know the Rothfuss were here a lot longer than I've been here in Penfield. So my condolences, and God bless you all. With that said, I live at 1740. I don't know if you've all seen the map of the layout, but I have an existing garage. It's an unattached garage. It's 21, a little over 21 feet by 23 feet. It's an old garage. I think it was a barn before that. My house, I believe, was built in 1820 something, you know. So it's a pretty old home. And the garage was an addition, and it sets back, and it's 8.5 feet from the property line, which would be the eastern property line. And what I requested from the town was to go back 32 feet and continue with that 8.5 foot border. And the first thing that the town inspectors told me that I'd probably have to apply for a variance because the existing code, I guess, says it has to be set back 10 feet. And so with that, then I got a phone call from Mr. Costello, and we discussed it a little bit more, and he said because it's part of the Four Corners group of homes, I'd have to come here and talk with you and request the variance through you. So that's what I'm here for, and at any rate, I figured, if If that doesn't work, I'll plant tomatoes back there, but we'll just see what we got to do. I just want to be above board on what I'm doing.
You've indicated the current detached garage you have now. Can you explain for us why you need this additional enclosed space?
The reason I need this additional space is because the existing garage is very small. And like I said, it's 21.43 feet. And I have, speaking of deaths, I had a brother who passed, and I took over his car, 79 Corvette. I have a small 17-foot boat, and I have my truck and a Jeep, and it'll be cluttered. And otherwise, I'd be parking them in the drive is very narrow. So I just need the room for these vehicles, and also, I work on vehicles and my own personal vehicles, that is, and, just a little workshop back there and what I do around my garage.
Where do you store your vehicles now?
Say again?
Where do you store your vehicles now?
I've got a couple of them staying out in Victor at a friend's house.
So you're right now it's a one-car garage?
It's a two-car garage.
Oh, it's a two-car?
Yeah, 2 stalls, yeah.
Okay. So you're looking to increase the depth of the garage?
Increase the depth, the
Okay.
depth of it.
But maintain the two-car
Yeah,
look
right.
from
And
the
the
front?
only issue here, as far as with the town, would be the setback, the 8.5 feet versus the 10 or whatever the town
You want to
requires.
extend the garage into what that
So
setback?
going back, and as far as in the depth, it wouldn't be a problem, because there'd be plenty. And there's a little shed back there, I'd tear that down after the fact, after the installation, so.
Okay.
Were you indicating your shop? Did I hear the word shop?
Well, I'm retired, it's just my own personal stuff, I don't do it. I'm a retired elevator constructor, so I had all my ups and downs, and I just like to wrestle with a few sport vehicles and fish and, like that.
Board questions, concerns?
Is this the only way you can expand, only direction you can expand your garage? Are you able to expand it within the setback?
Yeah, that would be the only way that I
Okay.
can see.
And are you looking to attach it to the house? Will this allow
Right,
it
it'd
to
be attached, not attached to the house is
Existing
separate.
garage.
Okay.
In other words, the house would be like over here, and the garage would be over here.
Okay.
And they're unattached, and the garage I'd just be going back
Okay.
with the same 8.5 foot distance from the property line.
Okay.
Is there a residence behind your house?
No,
So you're looking at strictly as a resident, you're not looking at any kind of future use for a business?
no, not a business or anything, no.
That's when it comes under the Four Corners district. Most of the time, we have applications in the Four Corners, it's dealing with the businesses.
Yeah, as a matter of
This
fact,
just
the house
happens
next
you're
door is up for
residential.
sale, and I guess
Mr.
they want
Brody's.
a commercial device there, but, but no, there's nothing there for business or anything. This is all my own personal use.
Okay.
And Mr. Reedman, as you construct this, to get into that garage, are you going to have additional doors, or are you going to go through the existing garage to get
No,
into
there'll be
that?
additional doors to the
west?
west side, yeah.
Okay. So you're
When you
looking,
go over the paperwork, I think you'll see everything there. We took pictures, and we had a couple of drawings, how.
the only thing I couldn't tell is if you were having additional doors. I didn't see it in your write-up, and I just didn't see where you had marked it on the plan. I made the
On
assumption.
the west side,
Okay.
it'd be a I think there's, my carpenter told me it would be like a 8-foot door or 10-foot door, something like that.
Okay.
Now, does the existing garage match the house in terms of paint, siding,
Yes.
and would this then match?
This would all match. Everything would be the same. It'd be the same color and everything.
So you're not looking to reside the whole
No.
structure once
No,
it's
so it'd
complete?
be,
Cedar
Pretty-
shingles.
right.
Okay. All right. All right. Other questions, board?
Good.
Okay. Don't run away. We'll open it up to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this matter only? So this is for a garage addition on Penfield Road. Is there anyone in the audience that is here that would like to talk or speak on behalf of that Okay, seeing none, I'd recognize Jim Costello, Director of Development Services. Is there anything that that has not been entered into the record that you believe would be appropriate, Mr. Costello?
Jim Costello, Town of Penfield. It's just interesting to know, Mr. LaFountain, that several years ago, before this property was rezoned to Four Corners, it was zoned R115, which was single-family residential. At that time, we had a setback requirement for garages of 10 feet. So that's what he's basing that on, is they received a variance of 1.5 feet or 1.6 feet at some point in time. When we changed the ordinance, or I'm sorry, when we changed the zoning for that property, we then created a situation where the setback now, the side setback is 20 feet for new structures. So in essence, he's really not asking for a 1 foot or a 1.5 foot variance. He's asking for the relief from the 20 feet instead of the 10. So just want everybody to understand that.
It's appropriate to be in the record. Thank you, Mr. Costello. All right. Okay, seeing no one in the audience having input put in and provided by staff, Mr. Reedman, any additional comments that you believe is important to this particular project that you'd like to have on the record?
I hope that I gave you all the information. If you need any more information, I'll be happy to provide it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
And Board, one last opportunity for Mr. Reedman. Any questions or comments? Okay, next step, Mr. Reedman, what will happen is after the hearing tonight, the Board will next have a conversation about this matter next Wednesday evening, and it'll be held right here in the back of the auditorium. That is open to the public. The meeting starts at 7 p.m. And at that time, that's a discussion between the Board and staff on different matters. This will be one of the matters that will be discussed, and you're welcome to come and listen to that discussion and hear that dialogue.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'll declare this public hearing closed. We'll next move on to our public information meeting.
Okay, this informal discussion is regarding an incentive zoning proposal at 2146 and 2152 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. There was a legal notice published in the Penfield Post both on June 12th and the 19th, posted on the town website and the town clerk bulletin board. No postcards were mailed due to this being a community-wide discussion.
Okay, thank you. And I would again ask Mr. Horowitz, although this is an informal discussion, this is properly before the board.
It is.
Okay, thank you. As the applicant is preparing to get their maps together, I'll just make note on this particular item. Historically, what this board has done is that we would have a public information meeting. This is an opportunity to vet out any concerns by the applicant, the town, and neighbors. And based on that input, feedback, and then discussion again, which will be held next week, we'll give direction as to next steps for the applicant, which would probably then include a formal hearing before this board. So with that intro, I would ask that, again, please introduce yourself, Mr. Shields, and for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Shields. I'm a professional engineer representing CR LYN Acquisitions this evening. With me tonight also is Dr. Bob Falone from CR LYN Acquisitions, and hopefully between the two of us we can address any questions the board or the audience may have. What my client's trying to do is to develop two individual parcels in located near the intersection of 250 and 441. The total development that we're proposing is 10,000 square feet of retail that would be spread out over two buildings, and an additional 5,000 square feet of office space, which would be a single building located towards the rear or the east side of the property. The subject property is really comprised of two different parcels. Parcel to the south is about 0.8 of an acre, and it's part of the Watkins subdivision, which from which some other recent development has been spurred off of, including the Jeremiah's Tavern, as well as I think a recently approved restaurant, Panera restaurant. So this is one of the parcels that came out of that Watkins subdivision.
Mr.
And,
Shields, if you would, maybe for those in the audience, those watching, if you would just orient the site in relationship to Route 250, Fairport 9 Mile Point Road, and Route 441.
Certainly. So here's one parcel, here's the other parcel. North is straight up on this map, so this is 250 running north-south, and what I'm going to guess here that 600 feet or so to the north would be 250 running, or I'm sorry, 441 running east-west. So we're kind of at the south, we're the southeast of that intersection by about, I'm going to guess again, 600 feet or so.
Okay. Thank you.
This is, you can just barely see it in this photo. This is Doodlebugs. It's been there for a few years. It's kind of a landmark to help people get acclimated. This is the car wash that sits there to the north of us.
Where's Panera Bread being proposed?
To the south of us,
Right.
right here. You can kind of make out the outline
Okay.
of the building and the parking around it. And so, the parcel to the south, again, is 0.8 of an acre or so. And I think in July of 2006, that was part of an incentive zoning resolution and approved resolution from the board. And we're developing that consistent with that incentive zoning. Now, the other parcel to the north is, I believe it's currently zoned business non-retail. Does that sound right, Jim? And I think that's part of the reason we're here this evening is to discuss developing that in a similar manner to the parcels to the south as an incentive zoning development. And, excuse me, what's being proposed on that 1.3 acre site, it's currently, as you can see in the photo, oh, can't see, but currently it's developed with a single-family home, and our proposal would raise that house, and in its place, we are proposing approximately 4,000 square foot retail building, standalone retail building along the west portion of that property, and along the east and the back, kind of as kind of a buffer to the residential use that we have to the east. We're proposing about a 5,000 square foot office building. I guess one more kind of critical, a couple more critical components to what we're doing here includes access not only to these parcels, but to the adjoining parcels, the Panera that we just mentioned, as well as the car wash and the McDonald's and the diner that's up there. What we're doing here is providing a kind of an integral link that would provide the cross-access easement between those sites and theoretically keeping traffic off of 250 and just easing some congestion, giving people opportunities and alternate routes to get where they need to go. So you can kind of see it comes here. It's a little bit of an S-shaped, but we're tying in where Panera is going to leave off, and we're running that to the north edge of our property. And lastly, I'll point out, I guess, two more items. Part of, in conjunction with access and site access, would be an additional access to Route 250. Currently, there's the signalized intersection here. You would be able to access our development by coming in the signalized intersection and working through the site. Alternately, we want to provide an additional access directly to 250 that would, again, just provide other opportunities to enter and leave, not only our site, but the adjacent properties. And the last item I'd just like to point out is in reference to the, I guess, recognizing that we have a residential use in zone to our east, we're providing a 75-foot, minimum 75-foot building setback to the residential properties. It's a little bit difficult to make out, but I do have some stormwater management proposed just behind the building. But what we're hoping is once that all flushes out, we're hoping we'll provide 75 foot to the building. We're also hoping to maintain 20 to 25 feet of the existing vegetation from the property line. So this is, I don't know if I call it wooded, but there's some solid trees there. And we're hoping to maintain that as additional buffer to the properties to the east. I do have some.
If I could interrupt you, can you just, for folks who live in the neighborhood, the neighboring residential area there, if you know, can you compare that buffering proposal with what exists behind Doodlebugs right now?
It's similar. It's Doodlebugs had the 75-foot requirement as well. I think they did do some grading and actually I know they did some grading, and they did plant some additional landscaping directly behind their building. But I believe they were able to leave about similar width of existing vegetation that we're proposing to do now. Kind of make it out in the photo. So similar.
Okay, thank you.
I started to say, got some, the building. I guess I'd just like to pass this out to the board. We can maybe have you look at them while we're continue our discussion, but these were provided by the owner. And shows the proposed building elevations for the retail restaurant use, I should say.
Are there proposed tenants currently being considered for the retail?
There's a prospective tenant in retail of a cellular phone retail outlet, and then there's a restaurant use proposed that would be a Chipotle Mexican-style restaurant. Those will both occur in this building.
Okay.
To my knowledge, the building to the north, there's nothing, no agreements in place for that one just yet.
Now, regarding the structures, I recall with Panera, they are proposing a drive-through, like the Panera in Parrington. Is there any drive-through proposed on these structures?
No, the restaurant that we know is or we hope is to be a prospective tenant, there's no drive-through proposed for that restaurant.
Could you explain a little more about that buffering?
About what, I'm sorry?
The buffering?
The
You
buffering?
mentioned water retention. Are you thinking about having a pond behind that office building? Or?
Great question. What that is proposed to be is called a green infrastructure or a water quality feature rather than a water quantity feature. And what that means, kind of in engineering speak, is it's intended to be a dry facility. It'll hold water, it'll impound water just after a rain event. Usually within 24 hours, it's dried back up. And what we're doing, the reason we're doing that is, the reason we're able to do that is because a lot of this site is going to utilize an existing pond that was constructed behind doodlebugs that was intended for to accept development of much of the property. However, the property to the north is a little bit of, we'll retrofit that pond to some degree, but we did need the additional water quality measure. And the short answer is it will be a dry facility, except for just after a rain event. It will not be a pond. It will not hold water routinely.
So what's it look like? It's just green?
Generally, they look like, sometimes you'll get cattails grown in the very center of it, but generally it's built with slopes that are mowable, excuse me. So it looks like a divot. And I mean, it's generally, I think we're going to end up at 15 feet or so across from bank to bank, and probably the whole length of the building, so around 70 feet. But it generally just looks like a depression in the lawn.
And that's a one-story office building?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any lighting in the rear of the building
Uh,
that would be on to,
Possibly we'll do some building-mounted lighting, some security lighting that would just shine straight down.
Straight down.
I expect we'll have an entrance from the rear.
Okay.
So it may just be sitting right, or stationed right over top of those entrances. Nothing that's going to illuminate
okay.
outward.
Possibly just an emergency rear access or something?
Rear
like
access
that.
would probably be fire,
Right.
Emergency ingress, egress. It wouldn't be something that's used on a daily basis.
Many of the new developments now are using dark sky compliant lighting in their properties. Are you guys considering to do that in what you're showing up there right now?
I don't think we have an issue with that. I think we would intend to match the lighting that's being used on the properties around us. So I tend to think that whatever was recently approved for the Panera project would be more than acceptable for our site.
Yeah, this town's would fully endorse the use of dark sky compliant lighting on the property.
Okay.
Absolutely, or at least I would.
Sure. No, you're right. That is a popular feature, and I don't think it detracts from our site at all. So that's acceptable.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
particularly when you're next to a residential neighborhood. such
Yeah,
as.
absolutely, I understand that.
The ingress egress there between the two parcels, yes, that is where the current driveway is on the residential property, is that correct?
It's, if you take the center of that current, ours is wider, of course, so if you take the center of the driveway and you shift it, I think to the south about 12 feet, that's where this is. So it's very close to it,
Okay.
yes. Kind of make it out here a little bit. This is,
So because it's wider, somewhat extending the existing driveway as far as not the actual driveway itself, but as far as location of where it is.
yeah, right, it sits right over top of it.
Okay. And then the access road to the north, maybe this is more a question for Jim, is that going to lead into a paved spur from the north, or is that just going to be an empty field, or is there gravel up there currently? I mean, I don't want to have an access point that turns into a depression, like a drop-off or an elevation or anything.
No, the elevation is fine. In
Okay.
terms of grading to the site, there's no problem there. The problem is that area on the Trowell property that we're speaking of to the north has not been improved yet for road access. That, as you know, as you're dealing with the incentive, and you're also dealing with the LUAM fees associated with every project that's in that area that deals with the land use and access management fee. One of the components of that fee is that if you use those fees for improvements, such as this situation, you're not obligated to pay the town the fee, so that we have to go do it at a later date. They can do it themselves and then be relieved of having to pay the fee itself. So we're going to have to look at, that as an option as part of the incentive zoning package.
Okay.
So don't run away. We'll let the record show it's Jim Costello from the town, Development Services Director. Jim, it'd probably be helpful if I gave a little bit of history of what was done in this area by way of cross-access easements and the connections and the work that Mr. Benway had done, just to make sure that all of these lined up and we didn't have roadways that didn't ultimately connect.
That's a good point, Tony. Several years ago, before the improvement to the intersection of Route 441 and 250, the state came to us and indicated that they had concerns about the number of access points to and from the properties in close proximity to the intersection. The town undertook a study to develop access management within that area. As part of that study, we also prepared an environmental impact statement. It went into several hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. Since that point in time, the developers have now paid us back over the development fees to reimburse the town for that work that was done, so the taxpayer wasn't responsible for it. Every developer's done that over the years. We've developed plans whereby developers who were not going to tie into other properties for one reason or another, there might be a topographic constraint or some type of a situation like a wetland, they would pay a fee so that we could go out and do other things to accommodate development within that area to make it more functional and minimize some of the impacts associated with traffic generation. In other cases, and this is a good example of that, we've looked at the possibility of utilizing tie-ins with adjacent property owners where the developers paid for that, and they did that as part of their paving process for their parking lots, et cetera. That gives them the ability to do it at their cost, and then we relieve them of the responsibility of paying for that impact fee that was associated with the preparation of the plan and the impact study that went with it. So over the years, the developers have improved the property, both physically, and then have paid back the town financially for the work that we did several years ago on the studies.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that piece of history, Jim. Related to that landscaped area and recognizing within that 15 wide by roughly 70 or 15 deep by 70 wide, any additional plantings that you're looking to put in that would further buffer the residential in addition to what is already there with the natural tree cover?
Sure. We haven't ironed out all the details of that, but I think what would work better, rather than try to landscape the stormwater management feature itself, would be to work on some evergreens or something that's going to be there year-round, and it's going to provide some screening. I don't want to say solid, but some good screening, and it would be to put those plantings on the east side of this feature. I think between that and the existing vegetation that would remain, we'd have a very similar very similar screening to what they did for the doodle bugs. You can kind of make out the evergreens on the print here. So we may have to landscape the feature just to meet the DEC's requirements, but typically those would be lower plants that aren't going to provide the screening that I think you're after. So it may be both, but at a minimum, we could do some screening on the east side.
John, as I take a look at the second page of your submission, you have a Table 1 matrix that you put together. As I look through that, I think I know the answer to the question, but I just want to make sure that I'm verifying all the setbacks are being met through this development.
The front and the rear setbacks are being met. What you're seeing right now is a scenario. I'm looking at the side setbacks, and right now we're not meeting some of the side setbacks, but I believe that's generally because I think as part of this process, we'll end up with a subdivision. Right now, as I indicated, we had two separate parcels, so there's a property line that's coming in between these two buildings. If we go through the subdivision process and we create one parcel or even possibly two parcels with the business being separate from the retail, but we can eliminate this line between the two buildings. And I believe that once that occurs, we would at that time be meeting the side, all of the setbacks that were in the incentive zoning in 2006.
Okay. And then as it relates to parking and what is being proposed for each one of the areas, and recognizing that originally as this was set up, this area, this particular district was set up, having the combination of retail and office gave you the opportunity to utilize that office space in the prime time for the retail and not have any problems with that. And, based on what you're proposing square footage, do you feel that you meet all the requirements that we have from a code standpoint?
I believe we do, and I say that in large part because Jim shared with me some, Jim Costello shared with me some of the plans that were part of the discussions back in 2006, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but as I recall, there was much more square footage approved for the entire site than what looks like it's actually going to be built. So
that's a good segue. That's a good segue to exactly what I was just going to ask Jim, if you wouldn't mind. We have referenced in the past in terms of Jeremiah's coming in and Panera's application. We often reference 2006 and the fact that several of us were not here when that was approved back then, but that we are beholden to that as far as a prior approval for the town. And Jim, can you just give a snapshot as far as that historical perspective, since this is an informational meeting?
I would be happy to. Early on, when the concept was approved originally by the then town board, there was a proposal for doodlebugs at one time to be, I believe, 15,000 square feet. It's now at 11,300 square feet, plus or minus in there. There was a building down here where Jeremiah's is, and there's a vacant parcel just south of Jeremiah's remaining. There was a 16,000 square foot strip mall that was proposed to be built in there. Jeremiah's is now 6,500 square feet, and the building that would be built next to that probably could not be more than 3,000 or possibly 4,000 square feet in area, based on what's left over for splitting the property.
And setbacks.
And setbacks.
And lot
then
coverage.
To the north, we had a 15,000 square foot Walgreens that was approved and then wasn't built at a later date. And then finally, I believe there was like a 4,000 square foot building here as well. Recognizing there could have been a 10,000 square foot building back here. And I do believe we're going to be discussing that property in the next week or so about potential development as well. So theoretically, this entire property can be built out as early as this year if everything goes according to plan.
So we're seeing a pattern of development whereby in 2006, approvals were had for significantly more square footage.
Each of the uses is less than what was originally proposed.
And therefore favors then more buffering, more greenery, more aesthetics.
Yeah. I just want to run back real quickly for John's sake. He's talking about this area here being utilized for stormwater management purposes. There's actually a requirement in the original plan, the town engineer, and John's been working with the town engineer on drainage issues, but there was a swale that was proposed along this whole area, primarily for the purpose of not letting the water flow eastward into the backyards of the people who live there. So there was a swale built with respect to Doodlebug's property. I suspect that swale will be continued on as well to collect that water and discharge it back to the pond area and not let it flow over the bank and into the neighbors to the east. The intent is to mitigate that issue and not allow that to happen at any time.
Board, other questions or comments for the applicant? Okay, we'll take just a short break here and we'll open it up. Has anyone signed up in the audience to speak on behalf of this application?
Well, I do have a couple that filled out the intent to speak during informal discussion. I'm not sure if that was meant for this or a public. It wasn't about this. It was not, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, what about you? Not for this one?
Not on this particular application?
Okay.
Okay. So, is there anyone in the audience that didn't sign up but would like to address this particular matter? Yes, please, come right forward. Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you.
Mike Young, 46 Bronston Drive. I'm right here. You're probably sick of seeing me. I've been here for all these. We've discussed a lot the current buffer, which he referenced, the pine trees, which really is not enough buffer, and that's why with every subsequent thing that's gone in here, the Jeremiah's, the Panera, we've asked them to add to the buffer. So continuing that and saying you're just going to add a row of pine trees is not going to be enough buffer, I don't think, for the neighbors.
Mike, I'm sorry, can you point out, right here, can you point out where you live on that map again?
Right here.
Okay, thank you.
And my other concern is this building is still not, there's no plan for that. And if all this goes in behind it, I see a very busy plaza behind me without the best buffer possible, which would be that non-retail building that's going to shield me from all that plaza. And I guess the only other concern is this retention pond or whatever it is. I don't really like the idea of having standing water near my backyard where possibly mosquitoes and that kind of nuisance can be bothering me, because I mean we do use the whole backyard, so I have a shed back there and stuff. So just keep in mind that the buffering with the neighbors and the fact that the buffering that is there now is not adequate. In the wintertime I can see all the way through, and I know that Jim has been working to add to that buffer as businesses go in there, and I'd like to see that keep happening. And as they move to the north there, that continues adding buffer, making sure that, I guess, the berm that's there, you're going to continue that on? Okay. And when you add that, you're going to take out all the trees that are in that area, so you're going to have to add something to replace all that. So that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that, again, did not sign up but would like to address this particular matter? Okay. What I would ask, Board, any additional questions or comments for the applicant? Okay. Yes, Mr. Shields.
I'll just add one thing. I think I said it, but maybe I didn't say it clearly enough. Is there's detention and retention when you're talking about stormwater management. And detention is a temporary, and retention it would be what they call a wet pond. The way that this practice works is that it holds water 24, sometimes as little as 12 hours, drains down. In fact, there's it'll be installed with what's called an underdrain. It'll be a pipe that runs a whole length underneath. It'll be perforated so that water can't get trapped in the facility. Standing water certainly is a concern for everybody, but I just want to be real clear that the intention, the design is that it does not, doesn't hold water more than 24 hours. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Board, I see any other Comments at this time?
And just to clarify that, because I know that was a concern of yours, Mr. Young, in terms of not standing water. We've seen this type of structure in other developments whereby it is a 12 to 24-hour maximum time period, because you're trying to slow the rate at which the water is leaving the property, correct?
Yeah, you're doing that. That's almost kind of a byproduct. What this particular feature will do, it will slow the water. But just as importantly, in this case, it kind of cleans the water, if you will. It's taking water that comes off a rooftop or out of a parking lot, and by infiltrating down through the soil, it's pulling nutrients out of the water. It's pulling heavy metals out of the water. So it will serve both features. It will slow the rate down, and it will also coming out the back end of that facility would be, in theory, will be cleaner water than what went in. So it dual purpose.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd ask Mr. Costello, is there anything that has not been added into the record that you believe is appropriate for this particular application?
The only remaining issue, and John had brought it up earlier, is the fact that they are looking at providing maintenance of the existing driveway or reconstructing the existing driveway to use as an outlet. We have looked at that at the PRC level and are looking at it in terms of maybe necessary as an overflow, if you will, so the people aren't all stuck at one point at that signalized intersections, particularly if there are drive-through windows associated with these businesses, to be able to get them out of the site. They're going to have to go to the state DOT because we're going to need a work permit to be able to move that curb cut, that driveway. And in doing that, the DOT will have to determine whether or not they want to have a full access or a right-in, right-out access. That's something the board will look at when they come back with their response from the DOT.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. All right, Mr. Shields, any additional comments that you have not put on the record that you believe is pertinent to this particular application?
No, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. And as was with the previous application, the next opportunity the board will have discussion around this particular matter will be next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Certainly you and the applicant, Dr. Falone, are welcome to attend. Again, that's a working session with the town board and staff, but certainly welcome to come in and listen to that discussion.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll formally end this information hearing. Okay. With that, we'll continue on with our agenda. And the next item on the agenda is communications and announcements. And I would start with Mr. Quinn tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. Several announcements. First, Penfield's Independence Day Parade and Celebration will be held this Friday, July 4th. The parade will begin at 2 p.m. this year and run from Penfield High School to Penfield Community Center via Route 441. Parade MC Don Alhart from the parade MC will be Don Alhart from Wham TV. Parade marshals will be Penfield Players and George and Kathy Wiedemer. Featured musical groups will include Penfield Fire Company Band, Towpath Volunteers Fife and Drum, Webster Marching Band, and Downbeat Percussion, and more. The celebration will be at Harris Whalen Park. It will run from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. There will be music by 441 and then Doghouse. And there will also be food and fireworks. Fireworks will begin at 10 p.m. For more information or to participate in the parade, please call 340-8651. Also, to guarantee safe passage for emergency vehicles during the town's Independence Day celebration, parking restrictions will be enforced. No parking signs will be posted on Thursday, July 3rd and removed after the event. The Monroe County Sheriff's Department will be monitoring compliance. Tickets will be issued and cars will be towed at owner's expense. Parking will be prohibited on one side of streets in the Harris Whalen Park neighborhood, adjacent to Harris Whalen Park. These include Avonmore Way, Hidden Meadow, Hillrise Drive, Lazy Trail, Valley Green Circle, Valley Green Drive, Maple Hill Farm Road, and Maple Leaf Circle. And in the Baird Road neighborhood, parking will be prohibited on one side of Wheelock Road and the southern portion of Peachtree Road. Parking will be prohibited on both sides of the following streets: Baird Road north of 441 to Wayland Road, Hotchkiss Circle, Henderson Drive, Kenmont Drive, and Peachtree Road, the northern portion. Also, with the fireworks traffic flow and parking rules and restrictions will go into effect at 10 p.m. on July 4th. So please be vigilant when you're driving around the Harris-Whalen and the 441-250 intersection. Please visit penfield.org for more details and maps of our Independence Day events. And lastly, on Monday, July 14th, Browncroft Community Church will be holding a blood drive from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. located at 2350 Browncroft Boulevard. Participants who have donated on or before May 19th will be eligible. Please call 1-800-RED-CROSS to schedule your appointment, and walk-ins are welcome. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Missler.
I have just one announcement and event to highlight that recently occurred in our town, a great partnership, one of our many partnerships between the town of Penfield and the Penfield Central School District. On Friday, June 20th, Penfield Recreation Aquatic staff and Cobbles Elementary fourth graders participated in the world's largest swimming lesson, an attempt to set a record in the Guinness Book of World Records. There's some footage being shown right now. 52 fourth graders from Cobbles Elementary simultaneously participated in a swim lesson at 11 a.m. at Penfield High School. It's a great way to end your school year, taught by Penfield Recreation Aquatic staff. At the same time, tens of thousands of individuals from hundreds of communities around the globe all participated in the same lesson at exactly the same time. The event in Penfield was documented and formalized by Betty Perkins Carpenter and Joe Pachotti, both Penfield residents, who served as the official witnesses for the Guinness Book of World Records. Special thanks goes out to Lynn-Ann Conroy, our Assistant Director at Penfield Recreation, and Tracy Perkins, our longtime Cobbles physical education teacher, for coordinating this effort. Incredible amount of detail to coordinate, from instructors and lifeguards to getting all 52 children tested and ready for the lesson by the 11 a.m. start time. More than 800 other water parks, pools, and aquatic centers around the world took part in this event. We're still waiting to hear the results as to where they did break the record for the world's largest swim lesson. It was the 5th world record attempt. This organization, World's Largest Swim Lesson, was created to send the message that swimming lessons save lives and to build awareness about the vital importance of teaching children to swim to prevent drowning. Research shows that the risk of drowning can be reduced by up to 88% if children participate in formal swimming lessons between the ages of 1 and 4. There's lots of more great information about this world's largest swimming lesson initiative available on their website, not surprisingly, worldslargestswimminglesson.org. And that's all I had to talk about tonight.
Great, thank you. A couple of items. Town offices will be closed on Friday for 4th of July. And it should be noted that the DPW, so that is our Highway Department, Parks Maintenance, and our facilities, they'll be closed starting tomorrow, and they'll be closed through Monday. So they're next back in operation on Tuesday. And the reason we do that is that when most of us are inside, when it's snowing and blowing, they're out plowing. And they take their extra holidays in the summertime when they can enjoy them, and versus being called in and plowing to keep all the roads open. So again, DPW will be closed starting tomorrow through Tuesday morning at 6:30 a.m. Kids Miracle Making Club of Penfield will be hosting the 2nd annual Do-a-thon and Family Fun Day Saturday, July 12th from 9 to noon. That's going to be at St. John Fisher, Policini Track and Field Complex. This is a fundraiser to construct an adaptive playground here in Penfield for kids with abilities of all abilities to play together. To learn more, log on at kidsmiraclemakingclub.com, or you can contact Steve Pello at 749-7515. And then my last item is Homerama is back here in Penfield. We had it several years ago at this same location, which is Watersong, off from 5 Mile Line Road, just south of the Webster border. That runs July 12th through July 20th. And there are 7 beautiful homes designed, decorated, as well as a number of other exhibits. So if you want to get some ideas on how to upgrade your house, put on that great addition, do some great decorating, come on over to Homerama and get all sorts of wonderful ideas. Hopefully my wife's not watching this town board meeting tonight. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Penfield Trails Committee will be sponsoring a free guided canoe and kayak paddle on Saturday, July 5th at 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Enjoy a paddle down Irondequoit Creek in a canoe or kayak. Meet at Ellison Park South, the entrance there, where we will paddle down to LaSalle Landings Park on Irondequoit Bay. Personal flotation devices must be worn. You must provide your own canoe or kayak or arrange for a rental. The paddle is expected to last about 2 hours and will be held and led by the Penfield Trails Committee board members. While the paddle is free, participants are asked to register. And to register, please contact the Penfield Recreation Department at 340-8655 so they know who will be attending. Thank you.
I have 2 announcements. The Penfield Summer Music Series at the Amphitheater begins next week. And the first summer amphitheater cool jazz concert will be Tuesday, July 15th, featuring Bill Tibero Band, and also the Summer Kids Fest music series kicks off Thursday, July 17th, featuring Dady Brothers. Music will begin at 7 p.m. Penfield Amphitheater is located at the Veterans Memorial Park, 3100 Atlantic Avenue. Events will be moved to Penfield Community Center in the event of rain. For more details about the Summer Amphitheater music series, visit penrec.org. And my other announcement is that my monthly community chat for July will be July 15th at the new book area at the library. If you'd like to come over and talk about anything of interest in Penfield, or I will be there. Happy to talk, visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horowitz?
No announcements tonight.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
very good. We come next to our public participation. There are 2 opportunities for public participation at this time. You can participate in one of 3 ways. If you're here in the audience, you can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org. And I know we've got a couple of people that have signed up, and I'll ask our clerk to read those in order, please.
Mary Oakes, and I think Karen Arnold, Tracy, and Tyre want to come up as well.
Thank you. I'm Mary Oakes at 62 Pennicott Circle.
I'm Tracy Tyrer from 66 Pennicott Circle.
Well, in May, right before Memorial Day, we started calling the village and emailing the village all up and down the north side of Penfield, of Pennicott Circle, to ask why the mowing hadn't started in the forever wild field behind our houses. And we were variously told that it would be mowed after Memorial Day.
There were concerns that it was too wet at that point because it was after significant rainfall, so fine, can accept that.
Finally, I called the week after Memorial Day and was told, oh, hadn't you heard? They decided in May that they're not going to mow that anymore. They'll mow that 2 or 3 times maximum, depending on the rainfall during the summer season. Well, I didn't know that. Nobody up and down the circle knew that, as I discovered when I started to bring a petition around to all of the neighbors on Pennicott Circle, Pennicott Drive, and some of the people directly affected who live on 5 Mile Line Road. Everybody saw you come on June 11th, and they thought, oh, they're late, but at least they finally started to mow. Everybody was under the impression that you were going to mow because the original owners, I discovered as I met them going around the circle, who had built in 1979, 1980, my house was built in 1983, although I'm not an original owner, they had all been promised by the town of Penfield that the forever wild field and the berm would be taken care of by the village forever. That was part of the deal when you bought. I know that the guy who lives at 52 Pennicott Circle emailed you. He forwarded me the emails back and forth between the 2 of you, told you about the letter, told me about that letter. And I know that that was the impression all up and down. And I've been trying to find a copy of that letter.
I'd love to see a copy of that.
But it's back to 1983. 1983, I think, when the berm was put in. And I will try to find a copy of that letter. I've gone back many times to a guy who people on the circle think might have kept a copy of the letter. Everybody else bought like I did. I bought 11 years ago. hearing from the people who lived there that, oh yeah, they've always mowed it. They will always mow it. They promised always to mow it. I've lived here so many years, they've always mowed it. And they have for 11 years that I've lived there. We didn't even know in advance that you were going to stop mowing it so that any other arrangement could be considered. Now what we have behind our houses, the grass was cut when it was this tall on June 11th. It fell over when they cut it. Now it looks like a field of straw with weeds poking through it, and that field of straw creates a thatch for mice, snakes, chipmunks, and whatever other vermin wants to live under there to hop out from the retention ponds that you've got back in the woods. This field, the straw field now, is 30 feet from my back porch. Same with Tracy and Karen, the same with Steve at 52, and the same with the guy next to him who was an original owner. And as I've gone up and down, people have been concerned. A letter came home from Scribner School, from the school nurse, about the large number of ticks coming in on children. And I discovered that children from the whole neighborhood, the circle all the way around, they play in that field because they're kids, and there's a field, and there's woods back there. They play in that field, and they cut through the field to play on the playground at Scribner School. So people are concerned. One lady told me that, and she's on the berm, told me that her dog had gotten a tick, and she'd taken her dog to the vet, because of course we have deer in that woods, and she's concerned about disease. A lot of people mention mosquitoes. Well, I don't see standing water being an issue, really. I mean, there is a retention pond back there, although on my deck I don't really have trouble with mosquitoes. But people are concerned about what's going to come out of that unkept area. Now, my husband and I are concerned as well about the appearance, of course, which is dreadful. I know Steve, also at 52, he also emailed you about the dreadful appearance. He sent you pictures. But it'll also affect our property values. We can't promise the next people who buy the house from us, we can't promise them, oh yeah, the village takes care of that field. It's forever wild. We don't own it. They own it. They've assumed responsibility to take care of that football field-sized field behind our house and the berm that runs along the other houses that isn't as wide. What we're asking you to do via our petition with 75 signatures, nobody refused to sign. Everybody signed. A few people weren't home. I went around several times and couldn't catch a few people. Everybody would like you to honor your commitment to take care of that field so that it presents a presentable extension to the backyards that go from our backyards to the woods. You own it, and we'd like you to take care of it.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we received your petition, and I think I mentioned that to you
Only
when I
on Monday,
responded
I
back here earlier in the week. The board got their copies today, so they have copies. And so certainly we'll take a look at the petition as we do any petitions that come in, and take a look at what our next steps, and then close the loop back with yourself. If we contacted you, Mary, would you be the person that then could push information?
I certainly will.
Okay.
Because everybody knows me now. They've seen me going around and around and around the circle with my clipboard, and everybody knows that's what I'm coming around for. And they have other issues that they would like me to pass a petition on. I'm like, hey, you got your issues. You want to deal with property taxes, you talk to the village. But really, especially with the property taxes just going up as they just did, many people are saying to me, you're telling me they're withdrawing services as they raise our taxes very substantially. People are making that connection naturally.
Yeah,
Can't blame them.
And that's a natural, certainly a natural connection. I mean, while your town taxes may have remained stable or flat, certainly school taxes, we've seen an increase in that. But I think folks don't understand or know the total difference between all the taxes and how they roll up, because a lot of times there are many people that don't see their tax bills because it goes right to their lending institution. So the only thing they hear from their lending institution is that you need to add another $20 to your escrow each month, to cover taxes. So,
Well, I have to tell you, listening to you look at these other petitioners who've been talking to you, I'm impressed with how concerned you are about the noise or the light that's going to affect residents and the buffer zones between businesses and them. Well, this is our buffer zone, and the village has always been concerned for it and taken care of it. In fact, last year, I could swear, I'm a teacher, I'm home in the summer, and I think Karen backed me up. You mowed weekly last year, and then this year, yeah, not the year before, it was bi-weekly. I think it depends on rain. When it's a dry weather, you don't.
That certainly is a factor.
Yeah,
No question about it.
I realize that, but we expect more than this dreadful eyesore that we've got coming up in the back of our backyards.
And it's been made very obvious that as a town, we're very concerned about the aesthetics of where we live. Again, the buffer, the landscaping, the gentleman who was here with his garage, making sure that everything looks the same, and, you know, basically everybody wants everything to be aesthetically pleasing. It's not. I mean, it's a horrible eyesore for anybody who lives there, anybody who drives around. So I would hope that you guys would honor that for us as well. You know, we've had it ever since I've lived there for the last 7 years. It's been very
goes
much
back to the 80s.
appreciated. It's well used back there by children, as she said. So I'm hoping that you reconsider.
Thank you very much.
Take a look. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thanks.
for coming in.
We'll go on to our next speaker, if you would, please.
Joseph Suter.
Good evening, Joe.
Good evening. Members of the board, Mr. LaFountain, I hope I pronounced that right.
Any way you want.
My name is Joseph H. Souter. I live at 647 Embury Road, and I want to call your attention to a dangerous, serious problem at 639 Embury Road. They have a tree, a maple tree, or actually two of them, one on either side of my house, and one is, they're about 90 feet tall, and one is about 2 feet from my property line, and the other is about less than 6 feet from my property line. Now these trees, the big one has a diameter of 3 feet, and it's 90 feet, give or take. I look up there with a measure, tall.
Thank you for not doing that.
The fire department thanks you.
Now what happens is these trees, okay, they are 35 to 40 feet from my house. Even they're over the property line.
The canopy of the tree?
Pardon?
The canopy of the tree is over the property line, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Where was I? The trees are, say, 35 to 40 feet from my house. Now, when we have these wind storms, tornadoes that come through, according to meteorology, they miss us by inches. And my wife is terrified that when these storms come through, they're going to blow these trees over, one of these trees or both of them over. And so this is why I'm bringing this subject up. Now, we have an awful problem with the leaves and the spinners coming down. They fill our gutters up. We have to pay to have them emptied because I'm 84 and I'm not allowed to climb ladders anymore. And so I'm at a bad predicament as far as the leaves and the spinners go. And they track into my garage and everything else. And I know these are ancillary problems, but they all add up to because of these trees are so tall. The wind comes along and blows all that stuff over. Maple trees, they grow fast, the branches die, and they fall over and blow over into my yard, and I have a problem picking them up anymore. So I called the town, I called the code, town code gentleman.
Right, Mr. Servegas, Andy Servegas.
And he said, there's no code that says about the height of the tree. Now, I know there's a code that says that trees have to be planted, new trees, 10 feet from the border line. But he said the town has no code on the height of the trees. And I think with my opinion is with the maple trees and all that stuff blowing out, this could apply to pines and willow trees and things like that. But I feel that it's dangerous, especially if you have one next door to you. I mean, if they're further out or something, they're out in the woods, it would be a safe bet. Now, Mr. the code enforcer, he suggested I talk with my neighbor. And over the years, I've been talking to my neighbor. I have apple trees, and when he moved in, he put a fence up, and he had an Irish setter dog, and he complained about once in a while an apple would fall over into his yard, and the dog would eat it and get sick. So I cut my trees all back, cut them all back so that nothing would fall over the fence. And so then I I asked him to cut his tree back. Now this is about 40 years ago, and the maples weren't that big. But he says he wanted his branches. He refused to do it. And from time to time, I would mention it to him about cutting his branches back, and he ignored me. So the last time I mentioned it, about a month ago, he got mad and walked off. So here I am.
Okay.
Now, I would like the code man there, he said they'd have to bring it up and have a code that they could enforce. And if that's the case, I propose a code that the height of trees, especially maple trees, because they're a nuisance. That's all I have to say.
Okay. What we can do is, we certainly, I'll have a conversation with Andy Servegas. He is our code enforcement officer, and I'm guessing who you spoke to, if you don't remember his name, but I'm guessing that was probably Andy. And I'll ask him if he's taken a look at it. Certainly the issue that is at hand is that, we have private property. You have your property, your neighbor has their property, and there is that, the town can't go in on private property and top trees or anything like that. But we certainly could send that to our Conservation Board. Our Conservation Board is a group that provides recommendations. It's an advisory board back to the town decision-making boards like Town Board, Planning Board, and the Zoning Board. And we can ask them certainly to take a look at that. I'm not going to promise, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but we certainly could ask them for, some input.
I would appreciate if you took a look at it.
Absolutely, and then I'll make sure that there isn't any problems or violations from our code enforcement officer, Mr. Cervegas. And maybe before you leave, if you don't have that, if you have a phone number, don't put it out over the air, because we have millions watching, and I don't want you to get unsolicited calls. But before you leave, if you have an email or a phone number that we could contact you, that would be great.
647.
No, don't put it on.
Phone number.
She'll take it. She'll take it.
671.
No. Well,
That's okay.
hold on. We'll just have you write it down. We'll have you write it down, Joe, and we'll just make sure that we don't have any solicitors. Thank you. We have the mic muted, so compliments of Penfield TV. So we'll mute that mic for just a few seconds, and then we'll open it back up. Okay, great. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll turn that. Joe, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank
we
you very
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
And Joe, just one thing, Joe, Tony mentioned the Conservation Board. I'm Paula Metzler, and I'm the town board liaison to that board, so I attend all of the meetings of the Conservation Board.
Conservation Board?
Yeah, so when they bring up your concern, I will be there to be able to tell them what you said tonight.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Okay, do we have anyone else that signed up to speak? Okay, seeing no one else, is there anyone in the audience that didn't sign up that would like to address the board on any matter? I see Debbie Draw, our county legislator, 9th District, representing Penfield, and my legislator.
And my supervisor and my town board. Mr. Supervisor, are you responsible for this beautiful weather to start here this holiday week in Penfield?
I was going to say, we're all going to take credit.
Good, well, anyway.
Don't ask us when it's raining or blowing.
I
But
won't.
yes, for the nice weather, please ask us.
Debbie Draw, 5 Cobblestone Crossing here in Penfield. And so I am looking forward to our beautiful, or wonderful town parade here that you announced here this Friday, and I hear the weather's just going to be gorgeous. I would just like to take a brief moment, and I was so pleased that you did so the PCTV did a beautiful memorial here for Terry Rothfuss. At his calling hours last Thursday, I know I was right in front of a couple of you. The memories of Terry were just wonderful. I mean, I think everybody remembered him, had fond things to say about him, what a wonderful man he was. His smile, I think, was the thing you remembered, in his kind heart that we most remember. And in due respect to you, I do think that Terry was, he probably still is the mayor of East Penfield. So I'll miss him. I was on the watershed committee with him and worked on some other community events with him. So I will miss him, and so I think it was a fitting tribute to him tonight, and I thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And I'm just back here this month. I'd just like to give you a little update. Last month, we held our Monroe County Youth Awards at Monroe Community Hospital. Legislator Dan Quattro from the 15th and myself from the 9th, we had, I kind of have to brag that we had more in Penfield and Webster recipients, young people, than any of the other towns combined. So, oh, and you did get some of my pictures. I sent some of them over to PCTV, and I was hoping that they would show them tonight. So as they're coming up on the screen, I'd like to publicly recognize them and give you a list of them. Skylar Wellesley, Caitlin Liccardi, Aubrey Masters, Caroline Rattan, Charlie Andrews, Amanda Slack, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Sandeep Charakhli, Kelly Martin, John Gahuli, Gregory McCord, and he's the son of, on our planning board.
Greg.
Yep, and
Doug.
also Audrey Potter, Brett Segilia, Hunter Page, and last we had, I was pleased to be able to present Gregory Camp, who's was our Youth Advocate of the Year Award, and he's the president of Penfield Little League, a host of the youth sports column, youth sports channel. He's and also he's got his column in the Penfield Post. So it was a wonderful evening, a tribute to all those people, and I want to thank everyone that actually submitted those names, that we could recognize these kids. You know, they're our future leaders, they're teachers, they're our elected officials, hopefully, in our community, and the entire town, I know, supports these young people with the assets that they're needed to succeed in life. So congratulations to all of them, their families, it was a wonderful evening. And I just have a couple questions for you, Mr. Supervisor. I was running actually early this morning, and I went through the community center. I know that you mentioned last meeting that the trees, they showed some pictures of the trees being taken down around the library. And I noticed now that they were out there doing some work this morning, and I was wondering what was going to go on with that.
Yes, so the trees did come down, as you drive through Penfield, you'll see a lot of the Australian pines, starting to die out through disease, and a number of them being taken down by residents and others. So the trees came down. We're currently putting in a series of new walkways, benches, outside sitting area that will kind of extend the library out into the courtyard. And there will be followed by the concrete that was put down over the last 3 or 4 days, last week and early this week. We'll then go in and put in a number of new plantings, and we'll top that area off, new bike racks and things like that. So spruce up the area, not make it look so bare with the loss of those trees, and really start to spruce that area up.
Well, they were out bright and early.
They were bright and early.
Yeah, they were.
You pour concrete, the coolness of the day.
I guess so. I guess so. And also, I wanted to ask you a question. I think that the Penfield Department of Public Works is doing something out at Monroe Community College?
We do, so that's an interesting point. There is a balance that when we put our budget together, as you know, being on the town board, we take a look at revenue streams that come in, and for the last dozen years or thereabouts, Penfield has been the choice of Monroe Community College to do paving work out there, and we're able to bring in revenue that then we're able to use to do other projects in our community. So it's been a great relationship. I always find it kind of interesting that that campus sits in Brighton, and their first choice is Penfield to do the work. So I think it says a lot about the Penfield crews.
I saw the trucks out there, and I was thinking the same thing. That
and as Chair of Public Works, is a significant form of revenue, as you will recall, for the town, enabling us to use that revenue that we don't have to use from
helps keep those taxes flat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's a great partnership, as you know, we have with Monroe County. If we didn't have the relationship we do with County Executive Brooks, we perhaps would not be paving out there.
Absolutely, so agreed. And I thank you. I guess I would just like to thank you always. I mean, it was a wonderful example tonight, your open, informal discussion, how responsive you are, the open government you all have here in Penfield, and when Mary and Joseph all come to speak about their issues, and
next Father Shorts.
There you go. Come to speak. I mean, everyone's concerned. They may be specific to themselves or their needs, but you open and honest and listen to everyone's needs and objectively make a good decision for the entire community. So I appreciate that, and I know that. The people here in Penfield are very happy to have you all at the helm. So I'm happy for that.
Thank you.
So, and I'll see you at the parade on Friday.
On the
Right,
4th
with the
of
nice
July.
weather.
Yes. You
Okay.
too, to all. You too.
Thank you.
Have a
Debbie
wonderful-
Jaw, legislator, 9th District here in Penfield. Thank you, Deb. Okay, I don't see any other audience that looking to speak, and no phone calls coming in, so we'll continue on with our agenda. I'll ask, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we have our minutes before us of June 4th, 2014, and would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'd like to move that the minutes of June 4th be approved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes that have been submitted for approval? Seeing none, then I would ask for a roll call vote for those minutes.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler? Aye. Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, next item is petitions, and certainly we all know that just a few moments ago, Mary Oakes and team were in and presented earlier this week a petition signed by some 75 residents. And I'll just read the petition. It says, "We, the undersigned, would like the town to consider, town council to reconsider the frequency of mowing the Penfield-owned field behind our residence on the north side of Pennicott Circle. We'd like to bring mowing to, we'd like the mowing to occur weekly as it has for at least the past decade." And again, that's signed by some 75 residents in that area. Has anyone else received any other petitions since our last get-together?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to resolutions by function. We'll start with Law and Finance, please.
Authorize the supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Monroe.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas Monroe County, on behalf of the Monroe County Sheriff, is desirous of obtaining certain refueling services of its vehicles from the town of Penfield. Whereas the town public works facility located at 1607 Jackson Road includes a fueling depot, and the parties have determined that the cooperative use of this fueling will afford mutual advantages in terms of convenience, costs, and efficiencies. Be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the term of September 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2015.
All right, thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussions, a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Approval of issuance of a conditional use permit to allow a clothing consignment shop at 1865 Penfield Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit pursuant to Article 3-3-97 of the Code to allow a clothing consignment shop at 1865 Penfield Road, Four Corners zoning district. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on June 18th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. on said date to consider the application and to hear all persons interested in the question of the issuance of this conditional use permit. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow a clothing consignment shop at 1865 Penfield Road is hereby granted, subject to the following conditions. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, I just would like to point out that the conditions are consistent with other type of applications we've seen come before this board for the Four Corners zoning district. There are 7 conditions, all seem to be consistent with prior applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, this site is located at the former Dollop site on Penfield Road, just west of Woodside Drive. Further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Approval of issuance of a special permit to allow the construction of a deck for outdoor dining at the Itakate Restaurant at 1857 Penfield Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board to allow a conditional use permit pursuant to Article 3-3-97 of the Code to allow for the construction of a deck for outdoor dining at the Itakate Restaurant at 1857 Penfield Road in the Four Corners zoning district. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on June 18th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. on said date to consider the application and hear all persons interested in the issuance of this conditional use permit. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a 16 by 16 deck at the rear of the property or at the rear of the restaurant for outdoor dining at 1857 Penfield Road is hereby granted, subject to the following conditions. Again, Mr. Supervisor, the conditions are consistent with past resolutions for restaurants in the Four Corners zoning district that this body has seen before. I would like to point out, if I can, just one of the conditions. It's condition 8. There's 10 total conditions, but condition 8, the proposed deck shall be open for food service between the hours of 11 a.m. and 9:30 p.m., with the deck being closed to the public at 10 p.m. on a nightly basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on this item?
Just quickly, Mr. Supervisor,
Yes.
I would just like to commend the applicant for his willingness to work with the town on several of these conditions. As Councilman Moore mentioned, the hours of operation on the deck, but also he was amenable to putting up a buffer, possibly some landscaping or a possible fence to help screen both and give privacy to both the resident or the residents behind the property as well as those at the restaurant. So I want to commend him for just being open-minded and willing to work with the town on this resolution.
I'd like to also add, we have Jim Costello here, that this is 2 more examples of our Four Corners, historic Four Corners district that is over 90% occupied. Again, continues to be over 90% occupied. Businesses want to come to Penfield, stay in Penfield, relocate within the Four Corners, expand within the Four Corners. And I would just echo what Councilman Quinn just mentioned, that with respect to Itakate Restaurant, Mr. Abarca had respectfully waited, honored our request to wait to request outdoor dining, get his business up and running. It's a very successful business, a lot of talk around town about his business. And I also wanted to mention that for both of these uses in the Four Corners, neighbors were fully notified. We had a hearing. We had no opposition to any of these requests before the town that was noted at those hearings.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole? Aye. LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization to maintain properties and assess the charges to the 2015 property tax bills.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas on October 2nd, 1996, the Town Board of the Town of Penfield adopted Article 4-4-28 of the Penfield zoning ordinance entitled Property Maintenance. Whereas the purpose of Article 4-4-28 of the Penfield zoning ordinance is to prevent the gradual encroachment of blight, deterioration, unsightliness, and property devaluation, and to assure that all premise within the Town of Penfield are maintained in a manner that will assure health, safety, and the welfare of the general public. Whereas property owners at 2069 5 Mile Line Road, 9 Meadowview Drive, 11 Meadowview Drive, and 7 Melissa Lane have failed to maintain subject properties, which continue to be a concern for health, safety, and the welfare of the surrounding neighbors. Whereas the town staff has continually requested that the property owners maintain these locations with no result. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield hereby authorizes the Fire Marshal and Building, Zoning, and Code Enforcement Compliance Supervisor to have the properties appropriately maintained. Be it further resolved that the Town Board further authorizes that the cost of said maintenance and any subsequent maintenance during the 2014 season also be charged to the property's 2015 property tax bill. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Moore. Discussion on this? Unfortunately, we have to do this from time to time, and so this year has been a year that we've had to add a few of these to our list of properties to maintain on a number of fronts. With that, and seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole? Aye. LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Purchase 2015 sidewalk tractor with plow and 2015 turf utility vehicle.
So moved.
Second.
The Director of Public Works desires to replace one 2015 sidewalk tractor L Series model number L4060-HSTC with blower plow frame, this is a hard one, blower plow frame and snow plow from National Joint Power Alliance, per the New York State piggyback law for a contract price of $44,548.60, and replace one 2015 turf utility vehicle four-wheel drive and dump bed from New York State for a contract price of approximately $15,000. So be it further resolved, the funds for these purchases have been budgeted in the 2014 Parks Equipment Reserve Fund for a total of approximately $59,548.60. Therefore, be it resolved, the Director of Public Works is hereby authorized to purchase the sidewalk tractor with blower, plow frame, and snow plow, as well as the turf utility vehicle four-wheel drive and dump bed, according to this resolution.
Thank you. Discussion. Okay, seeing none, a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Awarding a contract for the 2014 sidewalk construction program.
Moved.
Second.
The Town Board funds an annual sidewalk construction program promoting pedestrian accessibility and safety. Sealed proposals were sought and advertised for the installation of new sidewalks within the town of Penfield. On May 15, 2014, the sealed proposals for the project were received, opened, and read publicly by the town clerk. The bid submitted by Heinz Concrete was evaluated and found to be the lowest responsible bidder for the specified improvements and has met the town's bidding requirements for the project. Now therefore be it resolved that the contract for the 2014 sidewalk construction is awarded to Heinz Concrete on the unit price basis as submitted to the town, and be it further resolved that the award is subject to the submission and approval of appropriate bonds and insurance, at which time the contractor is given the notice to proceed on the contract.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
This authorizes the town supervisor to sign 3 recreation contracts for a soccer ball instructor, a cheerleader instructor, and a cooking class instructor for the summer programs.
Okay, terrific. Discussion? Questions? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. This brings us to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the board? Again, seeing none. Second opportunity for public participation. Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to address the board on any matter? Okay, seeing none and seeing no further business to come before the board, I'll declare the July 2nd, 2014 Town Board meeting officially adjourned at 9:09 p.m. Thank you, Penfield TV.
My dad was a farmer. My dad woke up every morning with the passion to work the land and create something that will live on well beyond his time here with us.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the field, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town, and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer.
It's our belief and hope that with Terry's spirit and God's help, we might clean out a few barns this morning, plow a new field or two, and inspire the planting of a few seeds of faith that will continue to nurture and build this community, as he so tried to do.
Being involved with the community meant much more to Terry. It meant building relationships with everyone. He believed those relationships were the very things that bridged the gaps between the barriers that could become sticky issues for many in the future. In Terry's eyes, that is what community involvement was really about, and that is how he lived his life each and every day.
I need somebody who can shape an axe handle from a persimmon sprout, shoe a horse with a hunk of car tire, who can make harness out of haywire, feed sacks, and shoe scraps, who during planting time and harvest season will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then, painting from tractor back, put in another 72 hours. So God made a farmer.
If he was with us, he'd look out over this gathering on this plot of land that his father once shaped and that he had grown up on, and he'd say to himself, geez, don't any of you have any work to get done today?
Now, with the fields groomed and cows fed, the farmer has harvested his last heartbeat. But his rest is only temporary. The never-ending job of watching over us and your peace of heaven here on earth is eternal, loved, missed, and never forgotten. God bless Terry Rothfuss.
Somebody who'd bale a family together with the soft, strong bonds of sharing, who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what Dad does. So God made Terry Rothfuss.